Thank you, Jonathan Mackey and Judd with Ramie. And yes, that sound means there is breaking news and a Woj bomb drop just before we hit a break. Usually Jason Stark would be joining us here, but because of the Woj bomb, he'll be joining us in just a little bit, about 4:40. Adrian Wojnarowski before the break, breaking the news that the Timberwolves have hired Houston's Gersson Rosas as the franchise's next president of basketball operations after a second meeting with owner Glenn Taylor today. He apparently was also in the running for the Washington Wizards job. So maybe the Wolves felt there was some urgency and they had to move on this guy once they decided he was their guy.
I want to read you guys, for people who missed the show yesterday, I want to read a series of text messages from somebody who knows Gersson Rosas very well in NBA circles. And this is just me poking around for, hey, I don't really know much about this guy. What can you tell me? And I'm just going to sort of selectively go through this so people can learn about Gersson Rosas. Rosas would be a far better hire than Chauncey. He could also get KG back because he's a relationships guy. Lives by the mantra that winning isn't the answer to solve things. Winning is a result of doing things the right way. I would describe him using words like compassion, togetherness, knowledge acquisition, being a good person, and creating a supporting environment. The opposite of Tom Thibodeau. Like, listen to those words, okay? Compassion, togetherness, knowledge acquisition, being a good person, and supporting each other. You could not describe more of an antithesis to Tom Thibodeau than those things right there.
And Thibodeau. Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. You did there. The Timberwolves need more accountability in the franchise. Gersson's biggest plus, he has a strength guy who's bringing, who he might be bringing to the Timberwolves if he gets hired, who is single-handedly responsible for transforming James Harden in the offseason. A strength guy who would get in James Harden's face and push him to a new level. And obviously Harden is fantastic on his own, but helps to have somebody pushing you. And there's been a knock on Wiggins and Towns for, maybe especially Wiggins, like, let's add another element to your game here in the offseason. Let's build some strength so you're not getting pushed around here and there, right? And also Gersson has spent time in past years with the Vikings to understand how other teams operate. Just a guy who sort of studies different organizations around professional sports. So everything and I've heard some other things from other people too. I think this is a home run hire by Glenn Taylor. And maybe you can play back tape of me and Judd saying the same thing about Tom Thibodeau. But the fact that you went out...
It's a solid single right now.
We'll see. But I think on paper, if you could say, who are the most progressive and smart teams in the NBA? And the Houston Rockets are definitely on that list, right? They're like one of the 3 or 5 on that list. Okay, who is the right-hand man that's ready to become a GM or a president of basketball operations that's like ready to take what they've learned from their current spot and go somewhere else? And Gersson Rosas is on a short list of 3 or 5 people around the NBA, and the Wolves just hired him, according to Adrian Wojnarowski and other reports.
16 years in Houston. Do we know why he was there so long? That's a long time, which could be a good thing, and it could be a red flag too. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, Thad Levine was wasn't he with Texas for 10 years? Or I don't know. Sometimes
16 years is just a long time.
Yeah.
And then he had talked. So he had talked to Washington. He had talked to Charlotte and the Pelicans before they pulled the trigger on David Griffin, I believe, correct, in the last couple of weeks, and the Wolves. So, yeah, it's, you know what? This is the sports thing, and it's not surprising, and it's probably smart, though. But a lot of times when you go through what the Wolves just went through with Tibbs, you are going to go out and find a guy who's nothing like him. And in this case, that's not going to be bad. I'll go back to what I told you guys on the show on Tuesday. The one thing is I really wish that this guy, and perhaps that this will come to pass, would get here and be told, this is your show. Run it. Who's your coach? Who's your GM? Everything is yours. If he is told, okay, the job's yours, but you're taking this guy and this guy, I'm a little bit more apprehensive. Not that he's not going to do a good job, but that handcuffs him a little bit from day one. I would love to see him be told, you're the president of basketball operations. We totally trust you. You're going to bring different ideas here, a different culture for sure. And the entire thing is a blueprint now for you to run.
Yeah, to me, if you don't do that, you're just handcuffing your guy, and really, I mean, it's not even really his show until he does get to hire his first GM and or coach. I feel like you can't even start the clock ticking on a guy who's calling the shots for an organization until he really gets control and you hand over decisions like that to him. So I'm with you 100%, Judd. If he wants Ryan Saunders, great. If he wants to keep the GM Scott Layden, great. Perfect. We trust you. Go ahead and make that decision. But I hope that's not something that's being dictated to him behind the scenes. As far as the hire itself, whenever there's a job like this on the line, let's be honest, we don't really know who a lot of these guys are. The only name on the list of candidates that you recognized when it first came out for Wolves president of basketball operations was Chauncey Billups. If you're a casual or even somewhat hardcore basketball fan, then one name that you recognized on there was Chauncey Billups. So
if you watched Duke basketball 20 years ago, you watched the Alaskan assassin Trajan Langdon,
that's
right?
true. That's true. Absolutely.
Who I had no clue was with the Nets, but yeah, that's great. I'm a big Trajan Langdon guy.
Right. If somebody would have said to you 2 weeks ago, hey, would you want Trajan Langdon to be the president of basketball operations? You'd be like, what is he doing?
How about Christian Laettner?
I saw that report, Trajan Langdon among the candidates, and then a day later, somehow the report came across my timeline again, and I was like, oh yeah, he played for Duke. It didn't even dawn on me like for 24 hours that was the Duke guy. But more than names, because we're not going to recognize most of the names that are candidates for a job like this, I look for traits in the guy that they hire, and a few of the traits that I look for are comes from a successful organization that's been successful for a while, and you have that in the Rockets. Thoughtful and analytics driven, I like that, and a relationship builder. I think those are all good traits for this next president of basketball operations. We'll see how he applies it to the actual job itself, but I like where this guy comes from, and I like what you just read off to me about him and what type of guy he is, how he operates.
So if you're wondering, okay, just how we know the Rockets shoot threes, but like how many threes do the Rockets shoot, and what are the Timberwolves likely to be doing here as Gersson Rosas takes over the organization? Not only do the Houston Rockets shoot a lot of threes, they shot 600 more threes than the second place team in the NBA. The Rockets shot an average of, let's see here, just under 46 3-point attempts per game.
Yeah.
The Houston Rockets.
We saw it last year in the playoffs.
The Timberwolves, and I think this might have been a franchise high for the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves shot 29. So in any given quarter, the Rockets were taking a handful more threes than the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I know the Wolves' only perimeter player who shoots threes is Robert Covington right now. So they're going to have a drastic overhaul of personnel.
That's my question. How much of if Rosas brings the Rockets mentality here, how much of the current Wolves roster is constructed to morph into that potentially?
Well, Covington for sure. Karl Anthony Towns, absolutely.
Yep, agreed.
Dario Saric for sure. Wiggins has a couple spots on the floor that he can shoot threes from. So I could see if I know he's overpaid and I am the absolute like number one anti-Wiggins guy, but if you can't trade him and it doesn't make sense to attach 2 first-round picks just to ship the contract somewhere, a guy like Gersson Rosas, you'd think could say, okay, he's not going to be Kevin Durant. Like the ship has sailed on this guy becoming a number 1 overall pick caliber player. But maybe we can find 3 spots on the floor that he's comfortable at, and we can run plays and make sure that he's not shooting 20 times a game, but he's shooting.
Draw little circles for him.
In practice,
You're kidding,
they should.
But when Mike Budenholzer took over for the Bucks,
yeah,
one of the first things that he did was he put squares all over the court with tape and said,
like Twister?
He said, these are the only spots I want you guys running to and shooting from. Okay. Literally. I think he put 5 boxes around the 3-point line and then a couple down in the paint. And that was where they started from. That was the base for Mike Budenholzer's offensive system when he got to Milwaukee. He said, I want you running and shooting to these spots and these spots only. So you're saying it like it's a joke, but I think there's something to that, really.
It sort of was at first, but now you're talking it serious.
Seriously, like I don't know how to me it's so baffling that Wiggins has been in the league for 5 years or whatever it's been, 5 years I think, and he still doesn't understand to not take a 20-foot jump shot with a hand in your face. So like why hasn't Tom Thibodeau? Why hasn't Ryan Saunders, like Scott Layden. Can somebody either come in?
I think they've tried.
And but then their
He just doesn't
communication.
listen.
Then it's one of two things. Then either their communication's terrible or they're not holding him accountable. You don't take those shots and play 36 minutes.
Don't forget, this kid flat out said in the midst of another bad year, I love my shot. In the locker room, he said, I love my shot. There's nothing to love there. And he said that. What if he's stuck here too? What's his role? Off the bench?
Wiggins?
Yeah. I mean,
with the Gersson Rosas regime?
Yes. If you can absolutely now tell Glenn, I've got to be able to, I can't trade him, but we have to use him as I see fit. What's his role?
Well, I'm trying to think of Towns is a starter for sure. I think Covington should be a starter for sure. I almost think every other spot is just like
up for grabs.
It's up for grabs, right? There's no really, like, in reality, the only spot that's solidified for the next 4 years anyways is Karl Anthony Towns. I mean,
Sure.
Robert Covington's a nice complementary player, but Covington's not like Robin to Towns Batman.
And no, they don't have a Robin.
No, contractually they do, but you can't, it's kind of like Kirk Cousins. Yeah, he gets paid like a top 5 quarterback, but okay, let's not put the game on his shoulders in primetime against a winning team.
Yeah, if Wiggins doesn't grow into that contract, or you can't find somebody who plays for a max, who plays like a max player on a much lesser deal, I don't think Gersson Rosas or anybody can really fix this thing until you find a way to unload Andrew Wiggins' contract.
So how about that? We just we got into a little random conversation about, the Wolves are bored. They're just putting gifs out all over the place.
Perhaps they did know something.
I thought the GIFs might be
right.
a precursor or foreshadowing, but it was something that they just started this morning. Their favorite GIFs of the 2019 season.
They just posted another one. They haven't confirmed the news
yet.
They're
still doing it?
They just posted one that says Rocco looking up because he can't believe we're continuing with this thread. Bravo, Shabazz Khan and company with the Timberwolves. Amazing. So if you're just joining here, thank you for listening. We are Mackey and Judd with Ramie. And for those of you who I see, we sent out a push notification on our mobile app, and we see a lot of people came in and listened to us in the last 10 or 15 minutes. If you want push notifications for breaking news, like the thing that just happened here, the Timberwolves have just hired Gersson Rosas from the Houston Rockets to be their new president of basketball operations. Sign up and sign up. Download mobile app. What's the word I'm looking for?
Download.
Go download our mobile app.
Sign up for our mobile app. I just say go get it.
Go get our mobile app.
Go get the mobile app
on the Google Play Store.
And then you can subscribe to your favorite podcasts.
You can do that.
Give us those 5-star ratings. Leave your comments.
There you go.
You can also find us on Spotify. Say Alexa, open Score North. Live.scorenorth.com and on AM 1500.
We're everywhere, basically.
Everywhere you want to be.
Jason Stark will join us next, and then we're going to get the inside scoop on Gersson Rosas from our friend Matt Thomas at the top of the hour. It's Mackey and Judd with Ramie from the TCL studios.